Hi everybody, it's Jennifer from Randall's Island Park Alliance. We are here on this cold day on Randall's Island Park to have a quick lesson on oysters that can be found in the New York Harbor. So we're going to have a quick talk with our National Areas Manager, Chris Trigenti. Here we go!
Hi everyone, so here we are. It's almost the middle of December right now, and we're standing here in the New York Harbor by Randall's Island. Well, most of the animals that live here during the summertime have either started to go dormant or have migrated to warmer waters, as we will say. A couple of our animals are stationary, meaning that they can't move. They're stuck in place. And so we're going to take a look now at a couple of those creatures here. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is we found here an eastern oyster. These oysters are here all year round, though they're often a little difficult to find when they're buried underneath algae and other aquatic vegetation. So winter is actually a pretty good time for us to get a sense of what our oysters look like. This oyster here was a pretty fully grown oyster. It is not alive because you can see the shells are what they consider, so it's called a bivalve. The two valves are open right now. A live oyster will be completely shut, and I think I have one here that I can show you guys. Yeah, so if we look at this oyster here, we can see that it also, again, pretty fully grown. We can see here that the two valves, the two shells, are actually shut, which leads us to believe that the oyster is probably still alive in there. There's another interesting thing that we can see on this. If we direct our attention to this little bump here in the center of it, it's actually another oyster growing on top of this larger oyster shell, and we can see the remnants of several what seem to be failed attempts at young oysters to do the same thing here. The oysters, when they're in their larval stage or when they're as babies, are free-floating around in the water, and they're looking for the right material to latch onto where they'll begin to grow pretty much for the rest of their lives. And of course, what better substrate or material than the exact material you're going to be turning into your shell. Now, wild oysters can also be found on several other substrates, and I'd like to direct our attention right now over to the seawall here, where you can see at this very low tide we have a number of healthy oysters growing. You can see that we have some cohabitating barnacles growing on those oysters as well. Now, while these are the same species of oyster that one might eat at a restaurant, it's strongly advisable to stay away from eating oysters in the harbor right now because the water quality, as filter feeders, they tend to sort of absorb a lot of the contamination that might be found around the waters, and therefore it's somewhat unsafe to eat.
Okay, so that's pretty interesting, Chris. Now, is this, the fact that we have oysters, are they the only type of species that can be found in our waters?
No, there are many different types of species we can have. In fact, we have another type of bivalve that we can find here today at the low tide. If we come over here, we can see we have ribbed mussels growing. So this sort of hole in the rock here was a drill hole when they removed this rock from its original location. This isn't a native stone to the site. But you can see that nature, being an incredibly resourceful force, has managed to survive in here. And these mussels are actually using what are known as byssal threads to hold themselves inside that hole. It's almost like Spider-Man. They shoot out these threads and latch onto their surfaces they hold onto. These are also important filter feeders, so they're cleaning out a lot of the sediment and perhaps other contamination that can be found in the water as they're eating microscopic plankton and that's floating through the water. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So, so all of these different type of where you have oysters or mussels can be found throughout all these little crevices that we see here.
Yeah, so all of these creatures can be found more or less throughout the island. They tend to do better in the right conditions. So if we have a lot of available food sources, the right substrates for them, we're going to see more of them. They're going to be flourishing in those locations. But they're incredibly resourceful creatures, and they do a very good job of making do in wherever they sort of seem to find themselves. And as I said, they're often a little bit harder for us to find during the summertime when all of the algae and other aquatic vegetation is covering them.
Okay, thanks a lot, Chris, for braving the cold and for coming out and showing us this.
Thank you.
So everybody, we braved the cold for you to have a brief lesson about oysters and what can be found in Randall's Island, because even though it's cold out, there's still a lot of life here on the island. So stay warm, New York, and we will talk to you soon. Bye!